So, have you ever actually paid your library overdue fines?
I've never had an overdue fine.
Oh, of course you haven't.
What about you, Michaela? Have you ever had an overdue library book fine?
I always have them.
That's because you won't let go of the books.
Well...
You just, cling to them. No, this is my book.
Well, I have tried really hard lately to return them on time, because the last fine was $22.
You could have bought the book for that.
I know. But I'm not overly organised sometimes, and I don't get them back in time.
How bad does that suck? Not only do you have to give the book back, but you've got to pay for it as well.
So I actually have thought at times, oh, kids, can you just wreck this book, because it's going to be cheaper for me to, pay for, a broken book than the fine. So
if you pay the fine, do you get to keep the book?
No.
So you still got to take the book back?
Yep.
Yeah. Just buy audiobooks.
Welcome to the Tradies Business Show, helping you get off the tools and into true business ownership, so you can spend more time doing the things that matter most. Now, here are your hosts, Warwick Bidwell and Michaela Clark.
Welcome to the Tradies Business Show. We don't condone or encourage the keeping of library books. You should really return those, because other people might want to actually read them, Michaela.
Does not every household have a stolen library book somewhere?
Well, stolen's a bit of a... That's a harsh term to use.
Forgotten to taken back library book, and then you've moved 3 suburbs later and go, oh, I never took this book back.
I can't remember the last time I borrowed a book from the library.
Oh, see, I do it all the time.
Which is fascinating to me, because, you're a bit of a tech geek, and, you love your sort of googly stuff.
Yeah.
I would have thought you'd just access everything electronically.
Well, I went through a phase where I did do everything, because I like the instant and I can read it. But I don't like reading off a screen, book.
Right.
I like having it in my hands.
Yeah,
I like taking it to my toilet when I do a poo.
Awesome.
I like to have it in bed.
I'm so glad you shared that.
I don't want to be looking at a screen, because I will look at the screen all the time during the day.
Uh-huh.
I don't want to be looking at a screen in my downtime.
I agree. I would never buy a Kindle or an e-reader, because if I'm going to read a book, I want to have the book. But I do audiobooks, because I spend a lot of time on the motorbike and in the car, so
See, the problem with audiobooks is, you got me onto them, and I have got a membership that I never used for 5 months, so I've recently unsubscribed, that I never actually have time to listen to them. If I'm going to listen to something, 2 things happen. I either want to listen to a podcast instead, or I start listening and go, oh, I really like the book of this. So then I go buy the book, or I borrow the book. So I've got all these audiobooks I've never listened to. So I realised I'm not an audio. I'm actually an old-fashioned paper girl. Well,
can you send the audiobooks you haven't listened to me, and I'll have them for free?
Oh, well, you can just log in if you want.
I'll hack your account. Anyway, we're a bit of an episode with a difference today, and on the subject of learning and libraries and that sort of stuff. Today's guest is the Economic Development Manager from Ipswich City Council. Now, Paul Hodgeson has popped up on the show in a previous episode way back in the early stages of the Tradies Business Show, but he used to work in Tradie Land for Construction Skills Queensland, which is a training organisation. But Paul's now the Economic Development Manager for Ipswich City Council, and we managed to get Paul on the show to have a chat about not just Ipswich Council, but about dealing with local government. So wherever you are in Australia listening to the Tradies Business Show, you're potentially missing out on an opportunity for a lot of work, because councils have a lot of maintenance and construction going on and infrastructure projects that, if you do a bit of research and perhaps do something as simple as picking up the telephone and calling your local council office, you could actually tap into a bit of work there.
And the other thing is, if there is a lot of major projects going on, there's a shortage to the residential market as well. So then you're knowing how to position yourself and where to market to if those bigger projects aren't necessarily your thing. But he gives some great tips about how to deal with the councils and what you should research and things like that. So it's actually a really good episode on how to get more out of your council as well.
Yeah, and if you're in southeast Queensland and you're sort of positioned around that area, there is a lot of stuff going on in Ipswich. Very progressive council, and they're investing a lot into the local region. So big opportunities there for tradies in the coming years.
And that would explain also why us up at Moreton near the Sunshine Coast get calls for Ipswich all the time for Duncan's business.
Joining us today, the Tradies Business Show, is someone who's been on the show as a guest before, way back, I think, when we were in double-digit episode numbers.
We really didn't know what we were doing.
Yeah, exactly. And so Paul Hodgeson is now with the Ipswich City Council as, I think, the Economic Development Officer. Have I got that right, Paul?
Oh, Economic Development Manager.
Manager, okay.
I've been called worse.
Oh, okay. Well, we'll give you the title that you deserve, mate. So welcome to the show. Good to have you back.
Thank you. It's good to be back.
And, mate, in case our listeners missed the episode that we did with you quite some time ago now, tell us a bit about, I suppose, who's Paul Hodgeson, mate, and how have you ended up working with the Ipswich City Council?
Okay. Well, I think last time I was Chief Operating Officer at Construction Skills Queensland. When we had our initial chat, I've worked probably the last couple of decades around in innovation and industry development and enterprise development across a whole range of different sectors and regions, really. But I actually grew up in Ipswich. I came to Ipswich as a migrant when I was 10 and did my secondary schooling and travelled to uni from Ipswich, and then brought my family back a number of years ago to Springfield, where I developed my own business and did a number of interesting things. I don't actually live in Ipswich at the moment, but I'm commuting to Ipswich, so it was kind of a nice combination of things where I could kind of get back into a community that I knew a lot about and cared a lot about, and also could probably hopefully bring some things of value that I've learnt along the way.
Yeah, cool.
So that's why I'm in Ipswich, and it's only been a couple of months, but a lot going on here. And
it really is a growth area, and I know the mayor, who's how long has Mayor Pasali been in office there, Paul? Do you know?
He's been with council, I think, about 25 years. He's been mayor he's just been elected for his fourth term, I understand. So it's about just over 12 years he's been mayor.
And he gets in with some enormous approval rate, doesn't he?
I was at a breakfast this morning, and he said that he got 85% of the vote.
That's pretty impressive for a local poly, essentially.
So that's.
And he does actually have people running against him as well.
Yeah.
Well, that's right. So I think he got 85% of the primary vote last time. So. He's very, very well known, very popular, and he's really truly the economic development manager of Ipswich. So
he makes your job easy, Paul.
Well, yeah, he does. I mean, it was one of the things that I thought about in terms of working with Ipswich was, well, what would it be like to work with Ipswich City Council? And it's got a reputation, and it's been demonstrated to me that it's a council that is, it's proactive, and it's willing to try some things, and it really wants to see progress. So it's a yes, and how can we do it council, not a no council. And it's nice to work in an environment where people want to do great things.
Mm. Now, for our listeners' benefit, we're aware, Michaela and I, that we're talking to somebody from a particular local government area, and not all of our listeners reside in the Ipswich City Council boundaries. If you're thinking of moving there, perhaps this would be a good episode for you. But we thought it'd be good to chat with you, Paul, about you've got this unique perspective at the moment where you're something of an outsider on the inside. Going into a very busy and growing local government. And for our tradie listeners, perhaps they're missing out on some opportunities in their own municipality, and perhaps some ideas from you on, I guess, the vagaries of dealing with local government and how tradies might be able to do that better, and just some general business chat as well, mate, because we know you've worked with, as you said, Construction Skills Queensland. So what have been some of the things that I suppose stand out for you as being a little different? If people are looking at dealing with local government, how would that differ from them dealing with private enterprise?
Look, it's hard to say right across local government, but regardless of where you're located, I think as a tradie, you'd find it difficult to find your local council didn't actually want you to do well. And that's a really important point, that reaching out to your local government, and not potentially just going in there and putting your hand out and saying, give us some work, but actually sort of saying, well, talk to me about your networks. What information do you have? What access to other things? What influence do you have? That might be able to help. And just developing a relationship with your local council would be a good one. Ipswich is in the fortunate position for tradespeople that it's growing rapidly. So just last quarter, $247 million of building works were approved by council. There's 85 active construction sites. But on the other side, I'd say that, look, the thing that often goes probably underwhelmed or undervalued a little bit is actually the maintenance and operational work that tradies can get involved in. So even if there's not a lot of new construction or new work happening in your area, there's going to be a whole bunch of maintenance and operational work that's going to be required just to keep facilities up to scratch. And local councils are a reasonable procurer of a lot of that work as well. Either that, or they can tell you, and they can put you in touch potentially with or promote what you're doing through newsletters, or to some of the people who are proponents of developments. They'll have a pretty good connection with the local business community.
So, in terms of accessing that, or pitching for that maintenance work, I think it baffles a lot of people as to how to approach local council. I mean, it seems like, and I'm sure the same is true in Ipswich there, I mean, it's a massive organisation. Where do people start trying to I guess, put themselves in front of you guys?
Look, I mean, there's councils of various different sizes. So, not every council would have an Office of Economic Development, but some of the smaller councils, you might actually make, direct contact with the mayor, for example, or your local councillor, and just let them know what you're doing, and that you're wanting to grow, and that you're investing in the community, and your kids are in the local schools and all that kind of stuff. I mean, that kind of connection is really important at the council level. It's the level of government closest to the people, if you like. Mm-hmm. And just really reaching out and just seeing if there's some opportunities to either promote what you're doing, or to get involved in some projects, or if they've got some ideas or some connections that they can make to you. And as I said, I'd find it very difficult across Australia that you'd find a council that actually didn't want to see you do well. So it really will depend. I mean, you could probably go online and have a look at their website. They're probably, they might have a social media presence. Most of them probably have a Facebook page. But, I mean, their elected officials will have a presence, and it shouldn't be hard to find your elected official one way or another. Probably involved in some of the local community organisations, or they're probably involved in the local business chambers, those kind of things. So, I think it'll be different for different regions, but council should be pretty accessible, and they should be able to pass you on to the right person if the first attempt's not the right contact for you.
So if there is an economic development section in the council, is that where you would go first?
I think so. I mean, there's lots of different parts of council, but certainly in Ipswich, we'd encourage businesses to have a chat with the Office of Economic Development first, and we can help facilitate connections with the rest of council. Look, councils aren't generally very big. So one of the great things is that you're not going to get the silos that you might get in other levels of government or in big organisations. So you'll get, they'll be able to pick up the phone and talk to other people quite easily. And that's one of the things that I've found just in my couple of months with Ipswich City Council, is that it's very easy to just, pop over and have a chat with someone, or pick up the phone and ask for something. And the responsiveness is really, it's really refreshing. So all those kind of things are really important.
And I think, what you say, Paul, is important, that obviously you can only speak for Ipswich, but, council generally would want people to be doing well, employing people, that sort of stuff. I think there's a bit of a misconception, and it's probably a little bit of the Aussie battler headspace, that government's out to get us and make life difficult for us, but it's certainly not the case, is it?
No, and look, I mean, I've worked at the federal level, and I've worked at the state level, and now I'm working at the local government level, and regardless of who's elected, I haven't found a government yet that doesn't want economic development, it doesn't want business development, it doesn't want people, it doesn't want to be buying locally and growing their own communities. They're the things that sometimes the way they go about it might be different, but the intent is always, to see local people do well. But it does require you to be proactive. In our local government area, there's probably more than 10,000 businesses. It's going to be very difficult for us to go out and door knock every business. But what we do want is we want businesses that want to grow, want to develop, that have got some ambition, that need a bit of information or need a bit of guidance. Happy for them to pick up the phone or send an email or connect on social media or something, and let's see what we can do.
And so
yeah.
I mean, apart from doing that, literally taking some action, which we're obviously big proponents of here at the Tradies Business Show, are there particular things that, say there's somebody listening to the show that's thinking, I've wanted to, I guess, pitch the council for some maintenance work, or, get involved in doing some work with their local government area. Are there particular things they need to make sure they've taken care of in their business to position themselves well for that?
Yeah, and I think that's probably one of the areas that an economic development or a business development part of council can most help with, which is, if you go, for example, and, there's a tender situation or something like that, or you go to the procurement team, you may have a couple of crosses against your name in terms of parts of your business that actually don't make you non-complying as a potential contractor. It's really important to sort of ask, well, how can I make myself compliant? And potentially, even if it's a scale issue as well, I mean, how can you potentially look to collaborate with other tradies to actually put a little bit of a consortium together or a JV together to actually bid for some work, or because that can be part of the issue as well. If you're, too small and you can only do a small amount of work, and the council's looking for a larger piece of work, how do you work yourself into that? One of them might be to actually look at whether they are contracting someone who will then also be contracting out.
Yep.
So whether you're, if you're a bit like in the construction industry, you might be effectively a tier 3.
Mm-hmm.
So your relationship with council might not be direct, but your relationship with the tier 2 contractor might be direct.
Yeah.
So understanding how you fit in the supply chain is going to be quite critical. But again, simply by asking a question, rather than just continuing to get knockbacks, actually ask for feedbacks. It's like going for a job.
Yeah.
Ask for feedback. What could I do next time to actually make myself more competitive? You might be surprised. You probably get some pretty good insights from the council. There's also other state government programs and others around supplying to government, and a lot of those are reasonably generic in terms of some of the insights that you can get, and really transferable. So state governments do supplying to government workshops and the like, and it can be a little bit different, and it can seem perhaps a little bit bureaucratic or a little bit rigid. But obviously, you're aware that governments are spending taxpayers and ratepayers' money, and so they want to make sure that they're spending that wisely.
Yeah, there's an element of accountability there that doesn't necessarily exist, or not so many layers of it anyway, out in private enterprise.
That's right. You've got, take Ipswich. There's about 200,000 people in Ipswich. They're almost all shareholders, really, in some way, in what the council does, and so you've got to be mindful of those. But as I said, councils want to promote local operators. They want to use local operators as much as possible. They understand the benefits of boosting the amount of business that's done in their communities, and that flows right through to schools and shops and everything, and the housing market and everything else. So again, councils are really there to help.
Yep.
And I know you were saying before, when you're trying to get work and you get feedback as to why you not get work, I think the key there is to also keep trying and going back, because that consistency and trying to improve, I'm sure, would also be looked at with councils.
Well, that's right, because they are looking for, in any sort of procurement, you're looking for reliability. And if you're someone that continually pops up and you're growing and you're looking better each time, and just the familiarity can kind of help, because it shows that you're sticking around. It's not a one-hit wonder, and that's really important. I mean, it's like in any sales process. It's very difficult. You don't usually get a sale on the first go. You build a relationship, and I guess that's what I'd encourage people to do with their council. Get to know their council, get to know what their projects are, what their priorities are, how they're structured, who the key people are, what some of their local procurement policies might be, exactly, what their procurement system is, where do they advertise their tenders, do they have to get 3 quotes for certain figures, do they have to do formal tenders at a certain level. There's a lot of information that'll be available, and a lot of that will be available on their website about how to get involved in supplying to council. But just also, keep in mind that council also has a very keen awareness in what else is happening across the region, and that'll be private sector and federal and state funded projects as well.
And also, I think it would be things like even the simple things of going to networking events that your council might put on, or just being an active part and being seen in your community, I'm sure would help with that as well.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, chambers are always looking for members, and they're always looking for people to sit on their executive as well and help out. They're generally volunteer-based organisations, so any of those sort of things are really, really good, both for making local connections and potential business connections, but also for learning and also for networking with people who, may be potential customers, but may also be able to advocate and influence on your behalf as well.
So, Paul, I guess, without trying to stray too far into the political side of things, I mean, there's been a lot of debate and discussion over the years, and I'm sure it'll continue to happen, about the levels of government we have in Australia. We've obviously got federal, state, and then local. I mean, is it hard for local governments, or is it harder for local governments now? I know you're only sort of recently back into that sphere, but, I mean, I think it's tough for businesses to figure out which level of government they should be talking to and how to approach them. But, I mean, what's it like for you guys, and now that you're on the inside, mate? Is it tough for local government?
I think probably the toughest bit for local government is that, and as our mayor says, 3% of government sort of rates and charges and taxes are collected by local government in Australia. I think it's about 16% state and 81% federal. So local government's trying to do a lot with not a lot of money. But really it's not so much the levels of government, it's actually how they work together. And certainly my experience here is that local, state and federal are working very closely together. And it shouldn't really be the business's problem. It's actually the agency's problems of how they work together. So, for example, in the 2 months I've been here, I've already been out to a number of businesses with my state government colleague, and we would often, if I'm going out to see a business, I'll invite them along, and vice versa. And that's really important for business, so they don't have to tell the same story to 3 different levels of government, and then hope that somehow it all works together. Yeah, it's much better. So we do a lot of events together. We're running an Invest Ipswich forum later in the year, and that'll be state and local government together. The Regional Development Australia Network, we had the launch of their blueprint for the Ipswich Westmoreton region a couple of weeks ago. That's a federal agency. It was local government input into that, and the state members were there as well. So I'd hope to look to that, and I guess the sort of thing you can do when you get involved in the local business chamber or other organisations is actually to try and bring the three levels of government closer together, because that'll actually help the business community as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So, again, we're talking Ipswich City Council, but are there, you mentioned, things like chambers, and I suppose there might be funding or support services available that, the average tradie business owner just isn't aware of. Are there programs that our listeners could be looking into or accessing across the board, mate?
Look, there are a ton of programs, and it really some of it will depend on where you're based in Australia. There are some federal government programs. If you just get onto business.gov.au, you'll find a grants link through there, and that actually provides access to not just federal grants, but also local and state, and other things that might be available through different foundations or other agencies. So, it's worth having a look at some of those. But also, if you're involved through, if you're subscribed to your local mayor's newsletter, for example, if you're subscribed to updates from your local business chamber, from your industry association, from a whole range of stuff. If you listen to the Tradies business show regularly, I'm sure you'll be well informed about what's available. But that's part of the reason that you build these relationships as well. If people are aware of you, then they're much more likely to be able to flick you something of interest that's coming up.
Cool. So one little tip I heard ages ago was to always look at your council website, because often they have like a local business directory where you can often list your business for free. So Obviously that's good, but as well as it helps with your SEO if you're linked from a .gov site. So often that's a little known fact that a good backlink to have for your SEOs on a local council website. So I don't know if Ipswich City Council have something similar, but I know a lot of local councils do have local business directories that are often free to list your business. So check that out if you haven't been on it already.
Yeah, look, that sounds like great advice, Michaela. I don't think we do have a business directory as such. We're looking at a range of things to do more with the business community and to promote the local business community, and not just promote it locally, but promote it globally. But yeah, that sounds like a really good idea to boost your search engine scores, or your height up in the Google searches.
Another thing I've found often with local councils is check out what the library's doing, for example, because often they have some great computer courses or business skill opportunities, some great free learning that you can do through your local council as well. And also things like, as part of being a Queensland resident, people have the option of joining lynda.com for free, which is a free online training sites that LinkedIn actually own.
Yes.
So often people don't even know about some of these benefits they can get through their local councils. So whether it's free education or access to advice or resources, it's always worth sort of getting on those lists and seeing what's out there for you.
That's right, and libraries are really reinventing themselves as real knowledge hubs. So they still often will have shelves of books, but it's a great spot where there's often a lot of networking events happening, and as you say, it can be learning to code, free learning to code, or business seminars. There'll be a whole range of those things happening. There's a whole range of co-working spaces and innovation hubs setting up as well, and you can pop in and have a chat with those people, and you may not be a member, but they'll have a whole series of different events, and just being aware of what they're offering. And some of them might be free, but some of them might even be low cost, $20 or $30. Go along on an evening and meet a few people and learn a few new things, or a few key questions that might just make you think differently about your business.
One thing I've started doing in our local library is actually, there's a million business books that people should read, and we're always recommending them. I actually go and look on my library to see if they have it first, and if they don't, I submit a purchase request. And every book I've requested so far has come in. So it's a really great way of getting free access to, the latest in business books and ones that you hear about. So don't think your library might only have old information. It's a great way of looking at, the magazines. They have a lot of e-magazines now that you can access through your iPad and things like that, business mags and all that kind of thing. So it's a whole range of great services that local councils are now providing.
Yeah, that's right. And while you're waiting for the next episode of the Tradies Business Show, they might be available as audiobooks too.
That's right.
Awesome. So, Paul, I think we should do a bit of a sales pitch for Ipswich here. I do follow Mayor Pasali on Facebook because I think, he's really broken the mould as far as local government and a mayor who is very active on social media. And I loved seeing him at the sinkhole that was in that poor couple's backyard. But mate, I've got to ask, do you reckon he listens to the Tradies Business Show?
I don't know. I should ask him, or should I say who doesn't? Who doesn't?
Yeah.
That's right. Why do you think he's made Ipswich the town that it is now?
Yeah.
City that it is now.
But the question I guess I really wanted to ask is, Ipswich is a growth area. There are some pretty cool things going on there. What are some of the big opportunities in the Ipswich region, Paul, that, our listeners are situated in surrounding areas. We've got a big listener base here in southeast Queensland. What are some of the big opportunities that you guys are working on?
Well, I guess if you look at the growth parts of Ipswich, so Ipswich is currently sitting at about 200,000 people. Within 20 years, it's expected to be over 500,000 people. So you only need to think about that and go, well, that's a lot of new houses, a lot of new roads, a lot of new everything, really. It's driven. A lot of that growth is driven by two big master plan communities. One people would have heard of, Springfield, which is well on its way to. I think it's about 85,000 residents plus commercial and educational and everything and retail facilities, and that's really growing quite rapidly. And the other one's Ripley Valley, which is I think destined to have about 120,000 people. And I'm not quite sure what its population is at the moment. It might be 5,000, but I'm guessing. But it's well underway. So there's those big developments. Within Springfield, I was at the major projects breakfast this morning. There was a guy there from Aveo, which is building a 2,500 unit retirement village, and that's $1.7 billion worth of investment. They'll be doing that over a number of years. A guy from the RAF base at Amberley, which is Australia's biggest defence base, was talking about their $1 billion expansion that they're doing at the moment. And it was mind-boggling hearing the statistics. I think he was saying at one point it's 33,000 cubic metres of concrete will be poured. It'll be 150 days of 8-hour shifts of just pouring concrete. So to do some of the sort of hard stand apron work out there. So there's those. The Ipswich City Council itself is leading a redevelopment of the Willowbank Motorsport Precinct. People might be aware of the drags and the V8s and the like out there. So that's a $220 million redevelopment as a motorsport and entertainment precinct. There's a CBD redevelopment. So a number of years ago, the Ipswich City Council actually bought the core part of the CBD. And the Icon building's been built, and there's a redevelopment of the mall that will happen over the next few years. It's sort of community consultations just about to commence on what that will look like. We're looking at redevelopment of the Woolen Mills, which is a 145-year-old building, which the council wants to turn into an arts and cultural hub. So there's that as well, and there's a whole bunch of other stuff. As I said, there's 85 active construction sites across Ipswich at the moment. Billions of dollars being spent, and lots of opportunities, I would have thought, for tradies to get involved in doing that. With another 20 years at least of growth to 500,000 people, there's going to be long-term work here for tradies to get amongst it.
Yeah. Wow, it's a heck of a lot going on, and it's a testament to the economic management of yourself and the team there, obviously, Paul, to be able to fund all of this and keep things growing there. So I suppose if anybody's thinking about a tree change, maybe Ipswich might need to be on the list.
Yes, well, it's kind of in a nice. It's got some nice rural parts, but it's also got some inner city parts as well. So it's quite diverse. It's it's at its eastern border. It's only about 20 minutes from downtown Brisbane, and at its furthest end, it's about an hour. So it's really pretty accessible.
Yeah.
Well, I know that if my son Ned had any say in it, we'd be moving out there because he loves the Workshops Rail Museum because he's addicted to trains. So if none of that other stuff excites you, the train museum may excite you.
Awesome.
That's right. It's become an annual pilgrimage for us to. My youngest child is 4, and he loves particularly. I think it's the summer school holidays when Thomas is at the railway workshops, and I think the last couple of years we've been out to see Thomas. So it'll be on our plan again for the summer holidays, I think.
Yes, well, very funny. We live about 2.5 hours away from Ipswich, and my son, he's actually autistic and he loves trains, so we thought, we'll take him, we'll do the trek, Anyway, we get there. It was a stinking hot day, but he was so overwhelmed with that many trains that he freaked out. And we were there 15 minutes.
It
and
was
we had
a no-show.
home.
Oh, no.
Now he's fine, but at that time he was like, this is like, a drug addict in a drugstore sort of thing. It was just way too much for him. But he absolutely loves it, and he's always saying at least once a month, when are we going back to, the workshops? So.
Yeah, well, it's a little known fact that, railway started in, so the railway line actually started in Ipswich and went west to Grantchester before it actually went east to Brisbane. So Ipswich was, if the Bremerwood River had been deeper, then Ipswich would have been the capital of Queensland. But it isn't, and so they built Brisbane on the Brisbane River, which was deeper. But certainly Ipswich was the thriving industrial place in the late 1800s.
So. Paul, we really appreciate your time. We should probably let you go and deal with the thousands of things on your new to-do list, I suspect. But, mate, before we do, there's one question we love to ask all of our guests, and that is, if you had 1,000 tradies, or maybe we should make it 5,000 tradies in a room, what's one piece of advice you would like to leave them with?
I think it's that you're only limited by your ambition.
Cool.
So your growth limits are actually in your head. So there's people out there that want to help you grow, want to help you succeed, want to help you be better. I love the work that you guys do. I think you're a key part of that, but a testament to that as well. So if you really want to be better, and you want to grow and you want to develop, reach out, ask people. People are happy to help.
Hey, look, and anytime you want us to come to Ipswich and talk to your tradies, we'd be more than welcome.
Okay, excellent. Well, down the track, we might take you up on that one.
Done.
We could do a live broadcast
do a live
from
broadcast,
Ipswich.
exactly. In fact, there's you get a number of live broadcasts in Ipswich. We had Channel 10 here with the studio a couple of weeks ago, just in Darcy Doyle Place. So yeah, it'd be great to do something. We might have to find a day that works and get some tradies along.
Sounds good, Paul. Sounds good. Well, look, great to catch up with you again, mate. It was a pleasure the first time, and it's great to see you sink your teeth into, I suspect, the next challenge for you, mate, based on everything that's going on there with council. Yeah, mate, we look forward to perhaps speaking to you under a fig tree somewhere in Ipswich at some point.
That sounds great. Thanks very much, Warwick. Thanks, Michaela.
Thanks,
Cheers,
guys. Bye.
So there you go. Paul Hodgeson, Economic Development Manager of Ipswich City Council. That's a heck of a title, isn't it? But go check it out. And actually, you should go check out Mayor Paul Pasali's social media accounts, particularly his Facebook page. Very active on social media.
If you want to know how to do self-promotion, he's it. He is everywhere. No matter what story about Ipswich, he's there. And they love him because he gets stuff done.
Exactly.
He walks the walk and talks the talk.
He's basically just running a good business.
Yeah, and that's how he's treated the council in that area. Yeah. It's amazing.
So, they're attracting a lot of investment, and I think my favourite thing from that episode was hearing about the $200 million redevelopment at the Willowbank Motorsport Precinct.
Great, more car racing. It's just going to go round and round and round and pollute the air and make noise.
As we sit here with your air conditioner still running,
it's still hot outside.
So, go check it out. If you're in the sort of surrounding areas to Ipswich, maybe have a think about tapping into some of those big projects. And if you're not, there were some great tips in there. I think you really should get off your bum and go and have a look at how you might be able to tap into local council. And I know, certainly in the area where I've lived, there are untapped opportunities for local tradies because council actually finds it hard to find good operators that meet their criteria, and so often it can be quite easy to pick up work from the local council, and they're great payers. And
it's also, you don't have to, they just send through a purchase order or a job request.
Once you set up, it just comes in.
It happens automatically.
Yep. So go check that out. And if you'd like to, get some more tips on how to improve your business and take it to the next level, go and check out the Tradies Business Toolkit. That's our community of progressive tradies. Go to tradiesbusinessshow.com/toolkit and you'll find all the information there on how to get off the tools and into true business ownership. So thanks for joining us. I'm off to go and sniff some petrol fumes, I think, and get in the mood for motorsport. And until next episode.
Bye.
Hooroo.
You've been listening to the Tradies Business Show with Warwick Bidwell and Michaela Clark. Want to get off the tools and into true business ownership? Find out how at tradiesbusinessshow.com.